your date podcast for the biggest storylines, results, and controversies from the tennis world. Today is Thursday, January 16th, day 5 of the 2025 Australian Open, now officially in the books. Before we get started, a disclaimer to everyone hearing this episode on your various podcast platforms. We are live recording today's episode on YouTube. Now, it was a test episode, so we didn't go about promoting it in the ways we usually do. This is something we are hoping to do far much more of here in 2025. In fact, as I am speaking, I am already cognizant of the fact I really need to shave. I'll do that for all of you tuning in on the YouTube channel moving forward. I got to fill out the rest of my apartment here in Atlanta so that you have the scenic view you deserve as well on these live shows moving forward. But the reason we're doing this twofold. One, it's not that hard. It's an easy 2 buttons for us here at the Cracked Racquets headquarters, and for us to be able to provide our content on another platform for all of you to consume. That's an easy thing for us to do. 2, by recording these shows live on YouTube, we're just able to have the sort of interaction with all of you live during the show that, of course, we are always hoping for. Perhaps some of you there now see our producer, Daniel Westoff, doing some camera movements. Again, it's a test show for all of us. Again, for those of you listening on the podcast, perhaps he'll clean this up in post and you'll get to miss some of these meanderings from me. But more than anything, it sounds like our audio is good, lighting is good. Westoff waves hello to all of you. There's his debut, I suppose, on this mini break podcast 5 years later. It was going to happen eventually. But again, the reason we're doing this to provide another platform for all of you to consume our content moving forward. And then again, so that hopefully those of you who do want to follow this show more closely, who do want to interact with me during the show, you'll be able to fire things like questions throughout the course of the show. I'll be able to better interact with you, and all of us can perhaps enjoy that aspect that much more moving forward. But again, I've buried the lead here. Yes, we're live on YouTube, but more than anything, we are through day 5 of the 2025 Australian Open. Round 2 of the men's and women's singles competitions now officially in the books. This tournament just continues to deliver. I feel like each day has built upon the past, and certainly on the men's side, it's gotten messy in the best sort of way. We had another teenager earning a top 10 victory on day number 5. It is just the 3rd time in the Open era we have had 3 teenagers earn top 10 victories throughout the course of a single slam. I believe it's the first time since the 2006 French Open. It has happened at all on the men's side, and today's thriller provided by 19-year-old American Lerner Tien. Now, obviously, longtime listeners of this show have heard me wax poetically about Lerner Tien since the moment I saw him on his run to his first Kalamazoo title. Obviously, he had a pit stop at USC and countless ITF and Challenger successes over the course of his 2024 season. But to beat Daniil Medvedev in 5 sets, to do it after blowing a 2-sets-to-love lead, to overcome a mini break deficit and just so definitively control the home stretch of that 5th set breaker. It is a dream win, a dream start, the headline of the day, Lerner Tien's 5-set victory that all of us, by the way, even here in the United States, got to enjoy because the match went until about, 9 a.m. Eastern time, something around that. Actually, I think it went way later. I think it went to like 10:40 Eastern time here, 9 a.m. That was still in set number 3. It was an exceptional match. It's our headline here on the day. Of course, one of our matches of the day, Lerner Tien becoming, again, the 3rd teenager joining Fonseca, Menchik with top 10 victories here at this Australian Open. But, of course, it wasn't just Lerner Tien on the day. Whether it was on the women's side, you had a couple of fantastic battles. I'd start with 2021 U.S. Open champion Emma Raducanu, still very much early in her career. If she can get healthy, it feels like she's starting to find that 2021 form that saw her so quickly catapult to the top of the women's game. Obviously, for Raducanu to earn a straight set victory over Amanda Anisimova, to do so after trailing by breaks in each of sets 1 and 2 early, it's a credit to Raducanu. She is fit. She is moving in a way that I don't even know if this is what she was doing back in 2021, and still has that ability to take the ball early on the rise, beat you to the spot. But it was the rally tolerance against the relentless aggression of Amanda Anisimova that ultimately allowed Raducanu to win out. And again, this is kind of who she's been now for, 6 months consecutively, win healthy, all signs pointing up for Emma Raducanu moving forward. And I apologize if you hear me pause at any point again today. We're live on YouTube. It's the test show. I may do things like adjust the camera here, moving it up a little bit more so that the angle is proper. And again, if adjust the volume. Anyways, there might be a few sidetracks like that today. I do apologize to all of you tennis fans in advance. Nevertheless, Raducanu, signature victory over Anisimova to set up a blockbuster round 3 with her and Iga Swiatek. Of course, you had Holger Rune, another impressive top 50 victory. It's not that frequent, it's not that often for Holger Rune of late that he's earned consecutive top 50 victories within the course of a single tournament. So big stepping stone for him as he has a prove-it 2025 season ahead in the win over Berrettini here in round number 2. You had a trio of Americans pushed to 3 sets, whether it was Navarro, whether it was Collins, whether it was Keys, all of them ultimately surviving. Danielle Collins providing plenty of thrills for the Australian crowd as well. And then, again, I'm not going to overlook some of those straight set victories that, while on paper seem expected, were still awfully impressive. You could make a case that Lorenzo Musetti was your most impressive performer of day number 5, so definitive in his straight set victory over Denis Shapovalov. Of course, we'll run you through how all the college players fared, the Americans, the tennis abstract singles forecast. Where do all of these things stand as we get ready to make the turn towards round number 3? And then, of course, matches on day 6 you need to look forward to most, as we have so many fantastic all-seeded battles on the women's side. Bunch of prove-it matches still for the men. And obviously, again, getting ahead of myself here, but a little opening tangent, I suppose. One of the biggest storylines thus far, it's a storyline I like to think we reinforced throughout the month of December as we tried to preview and forecast everything ahead. The next gen, the original next gen ATP crew, those guys born 96 to 98, Medvedev, Zverev, Tsitsipas, I think Casper Ruud's in 99, but Andrei Rublev, and just that generation of players that was supposed to be next up, was supposed to, from an age perspective, be around and at the peaks of their powers when Federer, Nadal, Djokovic finally aged out of this game, as 2 of the 3 of them have. All of a sudden, it feels like they're being usurped, right, by this younger generation, by the Fonsecas, the Menschiks, the Tiens, the Basaverettis. Again, Mickelsen's 20 years old. He's still alive in the 3rd round. Arthur Feast, 20 years old. He's still alive in the 3rd round. Jack Draper, still alive. He just made a U.S. Open semifinal. He's still in his early 20s. Obviously, the intergenerational competition with guys like a Casper Ruud, like an Alex de Minaur, like a Tommy Paul and Taylor Fritz making their respective pushes as well. Feels like things might get messy on the men's side. Maybe not if Alcaraz and Sinner keep doing their thing as they have. But again, that's 2 more guys putting pressure on that original next-gen crew. A next-gen crew that, again, at the youngest turns 27 this year. If you were born in that 1998 time frame, they're supposed to be at the peaks of their powers. And whether or not they are good enough to win a slam, that's maybe a separate discussion. Whether they are the best players in the world, though, with this rising crop of talent, and again, I should say, whether they're traditionally good enough to win a major and whether they'll be able to win a major title. It's very rare that, again, it feels this open in question through 5 days of competition at our first major of the year, but it's just building upon the trends we saw to end last season. And this will be the final piece of the tangent. Well, we're live. We're rocking and rolling here in this test show. The decision by the Next Gen ATP Finals to move that event to late December, it could not have aged better. And I was already excited about that field, obviously, before that event began, but that so many of those players have had such breakthrough moments at this event. Again, everyone but Van Asche and Jerry Shang had a moment. Yes, Basaveretti lost first round. He won the first set against Djokovic. That's a moment. Mickelson, Menchik, Tien are all still alive. Fonseca beat Rublev in straight sets in round number 1. It's the field has already aged extraordinarily well, and that decision to move that event to late December and just allow these guys to build some currency with fans, build some momentum for themselves in match play and confidence in competing amongst their peers, that decision could not have aged better than it has aged in this first month of January, with all those guys again going on to have the success that they have had at this tournament. And again, All that is to say, it's been a really fun first 2 rounds of play. Looking forward to recapping everything for all of you listeners here today throughout the course of our show. And as always, let's start by, again, breaking down our matches of the day. Certainly plenty to pick from, as we had a couple of matches go the distance. You had seeds upset on the day as well. But again, there is no doubt. The match of the day, Lerner Tien, who ultimately, from 2 sets to love up, survives in a 6-3, 7-6, 6-7, 1-6, 7-6 upset victory over Daniil Medvedev. I mean, the most impressive part for Lerner Tien is how he went about finishing that match. And the moment that Daniil Medvedev closing forward, I forget if it was 6-4 or 6-5 up in that 5th set breaker, which again, in a deciding set, played to 10, not 7. That volley that he floated, that backhand volley where he's on top of the net, he has the whole lad side to work with. Him floating that volley, that was indicative of just an inability to finish in the way he needed to finish against the 19-year-old Lerner Tien, who had answers to every question that in this test that was asked of him. The fact that Lerner Tien was as steady as he was, as physically sound as he was, again, to overcome, yes, he was 2 sets to love up. Yes, he had a match point in that 3rd set tiebreak, a match point that was fought off by a Medvedev ace. Not much you can do there. Then Medvedev hits the most brilliant of forehand lines to set up the set point for himself, which he then converts on a Tien error. To overcome that sort of deflating moment against a former Grand Slam champion and the number 5 seed in this tournament, to again have been on the precipice of victory. Match point he reached in that 3rd set breaker. Aced away, and through no fault of his own, again, Medvedev raising his level in that 3rd set breaker, he sees that moment fly away. It's a run-through for Daniil Medvedev in that 4th set again. Cruises to that 6-1 scoreline. Lerner looked like he had no energy left in the tank. The consistency you saw throughout the first 3 sets, it had completely abandoned him. You just thought like, all right, the 19-year-old has proven himself worthy of this stage, but he's just not quite ready for this sort of test. And look, Daniil Medvedev served for this match, up 6-5 in the 3rd. He never got to match point. Played a horribly sloppy service game that was indicative of A, the pressure that Lerner Tien put on him, but B, again, that broader theme of it was really difficult for Daniil Medvedev to hit through the court in this match. And for Medvedev, 20 aces on the day. There were moments where he was hitting that top speed, again, down the home stretch in that 3rd set in particular. He was serving aggressively and serving well. There were moments throughout his first 2 matches where it did look like that serve had rehabilitated in a way that had just so clearly fallen off due to injury in 2024. But on top of the 20 aces, 9 double faults, he made just 56% of his first serves in this match. And look, across the board, there were 19 different breaks of serve in this one. Both guys so sound on the return, able to create such depth. The serve was not as critical of a component, in this match as it should have been in a scenario where Daniil Medvedev earns the victory. But that's a testament to Lerner Tien, who was able to neutralize the Medvedev serve, who was able to do enough in his own service games, do enough in moving Medvedev side to side and not showing any impatience outside of that 4th set in the face of just the relentless consistency, the relentlessness of the defense Daniil Medvedev could play. And look, even after he got broken for 6-all in that deciding set, when Medvedev went up an early mini break, as he's lining up, again, I apologize, I don't remember if it was 6-4 or 6-5, that high backhand volley, I think if he puts that backhand volley away, the momentum is on his side. He can start to serve a little bit more aggressively. I think he finds himself in the winner's circle at the end, should he have gotten through with literally that thin of a moment. But it was just indicative of, again, the relentlessness of Lerner Tien. No 19-year-old should be able to go the distance with Daniil Medvedev playing that physical a brand of tennis this early in his career. Again, you look across the board, 53 winners for Lerner, 52 for Medvedev, but he had the huge ace count advantage. 79 unforced errors for Tien, 82 for Medvedev. That wasn't indicative of over-aggressive nature of either of them. It was indicative of, hey, this rally has gone 15 balls. I need to try to finish it. Otherwise, I'm going to cramp out here in the middle of the court. And, again, That didn't happen to Tien. He didn't cramp out. He was up for the challenge, and certainly, again, his ability to find line in those biggest moments, his ability to redirect, the backhand slice that he played with such relentlessness, I keep using that word, but such consistency into that Medvedev forehand corner to give Medvedev no pace to create with. And that's the biggest thing. If you give Medvedev no pace to create with, he has traditionally struggled. You think about the RBA matchup over the years where, again, every time that RBA backhand just comes in flat and deep, but with not too much for Medvedev to work with, Medvedev struggles to create those angles. He struggles to generate his own pace easily. And look, he didn't even struggle in this match. I thought he brought a pretty high level. Lerner was better. You look at the net, Medvedev 21 of 37 to Lerner's 26 of 41. I mean, a little bit misleading because, again, Medvedev was a little bit more assertive with his first serve, and I think there were more passing shots put in play by Medvedev that allowed Tien to build his net stats more accordingly. I thought they were pretty even when moving forward. The difference was when Lerner wanted to go line and finish a point, he was more successful in doing so. When Lerner had an opportunity to approach the net, you could just tell in his swing there was more confidence, there was more racket speed, there was more decisiveness in the choices that he was making. Even when he was missing an approach shot long, as he did twice, I believe it was, at the end of that third set and early in that fifth set, it's the right choice to make. Whenever Medvedev would approach forward, he would float his approach shot. He would give Lerner a clean look at the pass. And what we've learned is you just cannot, pun intended, I apologize, not intended, is you just can't give Lerner Tien a clean look at the pass like that. You can't. And again, to Lerner's credit, sensational. For a 19-year-old to be able to hold up the way he did against a guy, the world number 5. He's now 66-14 over his last 52 weeks. He's into the top 100 of the live rankings, up to number 97 for the first time in his career. And again, here is the most daunting thing for the rest of the field. Lerner Tien has 2 wins to defend until the start of June. 2 wins. He made one challenger quarterfinal to start the year in January. Didn't play again due to injury until the end of May. 2 wins. And with his ranking, those wins will come at a minimum at the challenger level. Very likely there's going to be some wildcard opportunities, whether it's Delray Beach, where at this point he probably just gets in on his own ranking. He's going to, if he doesn't get a wild card into Indian Wells, certainly he's going to have the opportunity to play qualies there. It's just, Lerner Tien has a runway. And certainly he has the level already, and it gets back to a discussion we had with Damien Kust in the offseason about his upside. I'm so certain in who Lerner Tien is. This guy, this consistency, the mechanisms he has available to him to just take away the thing you want to do most. Medvedev wanted to make this match a track meet, try to run the 19-year-old out of the gym, and somehow Tien said no. You're not doing that to me today, breaking him for 6-all in the 5th, overcoming that mini break deficit in the tie break, just being the more sound and bolder player down the home stretch from the ground in a match that was even from those wings. Again, he played Medvedev even from the ground over the course of 3-4 hours, however long that this match was. And in fact, final tally for this match, 4 hours, 49 minutes, excuse me. What a moment for Lerner Tien. It's the victory of the day, and again, he is through to the 3rd round of a major for the first time, into the top 100 for the first time. Now, we did the same autopsy of the case for when Rublev lost, when Tsitsipas lost, when Ruud lost. This is a disastrous loss. Disastrous start for Daniil Medvedev's 2025 season. He's gone 5 sets against 2 non-top 100 players on hard courts to start his year. Yes, he did not play a single warm-up event. He just had his 2nd child. He talked about spending more time with his family this offseason. But for a player who there was already an open question, because last season was the first time in a long time since 2019 that Daniil Medvedev was not the best non-Djokovic hardcourt player in the world, and in fact, Jannik Sinner was just the best hardcourt player in the world, period. That was the first time you had said that about Daniil Medvedev since the start of his prime in 2019. And certainly with Sinner looking solid through his first 2 matches, Alcaraz, I don't know why anyone would consider him anything but a Tier 1 contender. I don't care what the surface is at a major. He's looked excellent so far. Djokovic pushed, still good. Again, Fritz has dropped like 7 games on his way to this third round. It was some ridiculous number. The rest of the pack has caught up. And for a Daniil Medvedev, whose game was so predicated on his physicality, so predicated on that first serve winning him 3 points on top of it, as well as just salt into the wound of the fatigue of these players, that mechanism hasn't been available to him for 15 months. And for 2.5 years now, people have known, hey, if I want to beat Daniil Medvedev, I have to be definitive. I have to be aggressive. I have to take advantage of his court positioning. Now, how Leonard Tien went about beating Daniil Medvedev, out-physicaling him, out-grinding him, out-consistenting him, out-outer-thirding him, outside-deciding him. I don't know if I've ever seen Daniil Medvedev lose a match like that. I've seen him been overwhelmed by pace, overwhelmed by someone who catches fire with their aggression and plays that game style perfectly. I haven't seen him lose a match like this, especially not to a non-top 100 player at a major in quite some time, especially on a hard court. It's a concerning loss. It is a concerning loss for Daniil Medvedev, and again, indicative of that theme I discussed earlier, the biggest theme I would argue of the men's singles draw thus far. My generation, the next generation, I mean, I'm October 95, but the next generation who's just a little younger than me, but the people who, as I was starting this podcast in 2017, were the ones who were the rising stars. I think I saw this tweet earlier. I think it was Hanlon Walsh. If it wasn't you, Hanlon, I apologize to the person who it wasn't. They are becoming the sandwich generation. You have obviously the golden years, Federer, Djokovic, Nadal. You have the lost generation of Nishikori and Dimitrov. And yes, Cilic won a major title during that stretch, but Delpo only got one. Thiem got one. Like, that's it. Now you have the sandwich generation where, yeah, Medvedev's gotten one. But Zverev, Tsitsipas, obviously for Kyrgios, he's on the back end. He did make a final. Berrettini's made a slam final. Do any of these guys who have made slam finals, do you feel like they have another run, maybe to a final, but to a title in them? Can they overcome a Sinner? Can they overcome an Alcaraz? Can they overcome a Djokovic? Can they overcome, we'll say, 1 to 3 of the peers within their generation as well? It's a daunting 2025 season for the original Next Gen crew. They are just the make or break all-star generation, period, as we look at this year. And the reason you feel that way is because of the continued pressure of the teenage sensations against Again, it's Lerner Tien, 5-set win over the second-seeded Medvedev. Tien, the third teenager in a top 10 victory on the men's side here in Australia. Again, first time since 2006 French Open, and just the third time in the Open era we have seen that happen at a single men's slam event. All right. That's the unequivocal match of the day. That's the unequivocal storyline of the day. Let's move to some of the other matches now and get a little quicker through our analyses here. Let's move over to match of the day on the women's side. Look, it's twofold in this match. One, this is a massive victory for Emma Raducanu, who, 22-year-old, reaches her first third round at the Australian Open of her career with this win. Raducanu now sitting all the way back up in the live rankings, currently at number 55 in the world, which I feel like is underselling her level, but we'll get back to that in a moment. Again, this is an exceptional win for Raducanu. She overcame early break deficits in both sets. There's a lot of glass half full there. I do want to start with the glass half empty, something I try to avoid to do typically here on these shows, but this was a bad loss for Amanda Anisimova. She had this match on her racket. She was the one dictating the terms of engagement. And look, it's a credit to Emma Raducanu, who, again, I didn't know she had this sort of defense in her. I didn't know she had this sort of fluidity in her. I still think she left a few balls short that Anisimova attacked definitively, but that wasn't enough. The ball just kept coming back, and whether it was the conditions or just, again, Raducanu's ability to read where Anisimova wanted to play, backhand cross to the forehand inside out, to the forehand line, to the backhand line to beat you, just all the patterns. This match was on Amanda Anisimova's racket. She had 39 winners to Raducanu's 12. She also hit 44 unforced errors to Raducanu's 17. This match was on Amanda Anisimova's racket. She was up a break in each of those sets early. She even had opportunities after getting broken back for, I think she was up 3-2, got broken back, but had game point chances. Was up 3-1, got broken back, had, I believe, a look. It was either 30-all or 30-40 for a break point for a break at 4-2. She had a game point chance, 3-all, 40-30 as well. she had countless looks throughout the course of this match, and whether it was, again, the forehand linking just a little long on her, a little wide on her, or, you look in this match, 7 double faults, it felt like all of them came at the most inopportune of times, particularly just down the home stretch of set number 1. Still, glass half empty to a glass half full take, this match was on Amanda Anisimova's racket, and I will own the take I made before the season. This is something I'm going to try and do more throughout the course of the year, stay accountable to you all. I said she's going to end this season in the top 10. If she can sustain the level she had at her best, that ability to dictate, and again, I think she's moving exceptionally well. I haven't seen Anisimova move like this maybe ever in her career, and all the opportunities were there. She just could not finish at a rate consistently enough today, and yet the shot was there. She finished successfully, 39 winners throughout the course of this match. Only 2 of those were aces, and you look for Anisimova in this match, 13 breakpoint chances for herself to Anisimova's 10, 8 of 15 at the net to Raducanu's, Anisimova 5 of 13 on breakpoints, Raducanu 8 of 10. But, Anisimova had more chances. Anisimova 8 of 15 at the net. That number would have been higher if more approaches came back to Raducanu's 5 of 6. Look, to Emma Raducanu's credit, her forehand on the rise return line on the deuce side, I know that's a very specific thing. It is not a good trait. It is an elite trait. Anisimova 8 of 31 on second serve points in this match. Raducanu was on top of those returns, on top of the baseline. And again, that forehand deuce line return, it's just simply elite. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Can take the backhand inside out on the deuce side. Can take the backhand line or cross early on the ad side. She is an elite returner. Like when she is connecting with the ball cleanly, that ball is coming back with depth and pace to make you uncomfortable. And to Anisimova's credit, again, she was able to extend rallies and stretch the point more than I am accustomed to seeing her, certainly over the last 2 years. I am very encouraged in the progress Anisimova has made this offseason. And I still, even in a second-round loss in a match she was in control of and dictated the terms of, I am still big picture glass half full. The glass half empty thing for Anisimova is that this match was on her racket. If you go back and watch this match, you won't come out of it thinking, the first thing you'll think is that she should have won this, no doubt about it. But one B thing you'll be thinking is, wow, I didn't remember Raducanu being this sort of athlete, being this sort of fluid mover. I always knew she had the contact point and was quick enough to use her speed to beat you to the spot, take the ball early on the rise. But again, Raducanu was efficient in everything she did. Yes, she gave defensive court positioning, but it was in the sacrifice of extending rallies and eliciting the errors that Anisimova was providing throughout the course of this one. Raducanu put enough first serves in play, was, again, sound in her execution in her service games down the stretch. She's into her first third round at the Australian Open, and maybe more than anything, she's got a 5-match win streak going, dating back to Billie Jean King Cup, where she beat Niemeyer, Rankakova, and Marino, now wins over Alexandrova. Anisimova, you look for Emma Raducanu, who is now 23-11 over her last 52 weeks of play. Shout out to the 2/3 rule, but perhaps more notably, since the start of the grass court season, where she's been healthy, dare I say, consecutively for an extended stretch. She's now 16-6 overall during that stretch. Has wins over Anisimova, Alexandrova, Stearns, Mertens, multiple times for both, Pegula during that stretch of time as well. Emma Raducanu is playing the best tennis of her career since 2021. And this is arguably, outside of start of Wimbledon through the U.S. Open, what is that, a 2-month stretch? You could argue this is the most consistent she's been at the tour level in a 6-month stretch ever in her young career. A stark reminder that not only does she have the contact points to still apply pressure to someone like Anisimova. I don't mean to imply Raducanu was never taking the ball early. Raducanu never had opportunities to get Anisimova stretched. I mentioned the second serve returns and obviously just her ability to take that ball early on the rise. But it's the movement. That's the new piece that has led to this newfound success, that ability to extend things and not just be forced to dictate and play the clean, dictating tennis that, yes, won her the U.S. Open title, but it's just thinner margins to execute. It's an exceptional win for Emma Raducanu. Probably her best win. I'll say it. Probably her best win since the 2021 U.S. Open title. She hasn't made a final in that stretch of time. You look for her. Yeah, she's had some moments. Go back to 2022. I mean, look, I'm not going to relitigate everything. But in terms of 2022, she beat Serena round one. I do remember that one. She beat Vika the next round. But no, in terms of significance, this is her most significant victory. To beat Anisimova on this stage to set up the matchup with Swiatek, two, by the way, Grand Slam champions going head-to-head in round three. Yeah, it's certainly the match of the day on the women's side, and I will say the most significant win Emma Raducanu has picked up since 2021. I'm still confident in the Anisimova future moving forward, but again, a credit to Emma Raducanu knocking out Anisimova in straight sets, advancing to round number three. Other matches of the day, I'm actually not going to pick any of the upsets. I want to go with some other wins that may have seemed either relatively unnotable because the player you expected to win, but you should pay attention to what we saw come out of those matches, and certainly as such worthy of going back to the exceptional Australian Open YouTube page and running through the highlights of. Let's start with the American women. All three seeds ultimately advanced, but it was drama across the board, whether it was Danielle Collins' 7-6-4, 6-6-2 win over Ieva to advance to the third round. Collins, who entered this Australian Open on a 5-match losing streak and hadn't advanced to the third round of a tournament since the Paris Olympics. 6-match losing streak, overall. And by the way, yes, one of those losses was to Swiatek. The others were to Gadecki, Dalahide, Sremkova, yes, Jabeur to start the season, and Erica Andreeva. Not Mira, Erica Andreeva. So, again, Danielle Collins, it had been a while since she had won back-to-back matches at a single event. For her to get through two tight matches in her first two rounds, again, it is progress for the 31-year-old. But the real reason I'm bringing up this match is not about the tennis you saw played. You know what you're going to get in a Danielle Collins match. You know she will be streaky, but when she is landing with the aggression she plays, she is more than capable of hitting 45 winners to an opponent's 25, as she did on this occasion. It was the post-match press conference. It was her interactions with the crowd, the animosity, in the maybe not always the healthiest sense, but that she has the boldness, that she has the willingness to speak out when the crowd is enraging her, that she is willing to then own that act and speak freely about it and double down on it and play the role of villain in front of that crowd in the post-match press conference to, again, discuss the yachts and cruises she and her friends will go on with the additional prize money she just secured, to give them a little Hulk Hogan and a kiss on the derriere as she's celebrated and walking off the court as well. If you can't enjoy that as in sport, if you can't find the fun in that moment, I get why. I understand why those might be aggravated by it. I choose to treat it with the seriousness it deserves to be treated, which is don't treat it seriously at all. Treat it as part of the performance. Treat it as part of the act, part of the entertainment that ultimately sports are always supposed to provide. I do find it thoroughly entertaining. I do find it enjoyable, a breath of fresh air to see someone be so thoroughly willing to be themselves and own it in that moment, play the role of villain when others might shy away from it. Look, that she won the match, not unexpected. But she provided some of the clips of the day, and certainly that post-match press conference. I imagine you've already all seen it. Make the rounds on social media. If you haven't, go give it a gander, as it is certain to give you a chuckle. Again, tennis, the most unintentionally comedic sport we have in all the world. And again, it wasn't just Collins on the day. How about Maddie Keys surviving? 7-6, 2-6, 7-5 victory over Elena Gabriela Russa. This looked more like week one Keys than week two Adelaide Keys, where when she was at her best, still electric, and you look for Maddie in this match, won 65% of her first serve points, 37 winners in this match, 12 of 15 at the net. She executed on 4 of her 8 breakpoint chances. The problem was there was a prolonged 20-minute stretch where unforced errors came in waves, and certainly you look for Keys in set number 2 of this match, 16 unforced errors, but 3 of 10 on second serve points, 2 double faults in that set as well. It just felt like she lost the plot line there for a moment. Credit to Russa, who was swinging aggressively and seemed to get a better read on the ball of Maddie Keys. But again, you're always going to have this in week number 1. Not always. There are some seeds who are just peak performance and they cruise the way we've seen in the past. Iga at Roland Garros, although even she had to survive a 3-set against Osaka. It's about when you're not playing that best match, can you survive it? Can you get through it? And that was the case for Maddie Keys. And I will continue to say, now it's a clear-cut Tier 1 top 4, Swiatek, Sabalenka, Goff, Rybakina, in any order you want to choose. Pegula, Maddie Keys, they're at the top of tier number 2. And I do think with what I've seen from Maddie Keys in the matches she's played this season, that best is good enough to threaten anyone. She already beat Pegula here this year in the Adelaide final. Was she at her best today? No. Did she find a way to survive? Did her power tennis still overwhelm in the end? It absolutely does. And at the very least, again, there's the certainty of knowing win or lose, Maddie Keys is going to go down swinging, that she was willing to do so again into another third round here in Australia. And just a fascinating matchup between her and Danielle Collins, obviously looming in round number 3. Power tennis at its finest. The last on the list of Americans pushed, Emma Navarro, another 3-set victory. I saw the stat courtesy of our friends at Opta Ace. Emma Navarro has now played more 3-set matches than I believe any player since the start of the 2024 season. And you look for Navarro during that stretch of time, and I apologize for looking down. I'm checking my phone for the stat I had written down. Emma Navarro during this stretch, 33-set matches, the most of any player since the start of 2024. That's ridiculous. It's a lot of going the distance. And again, she's been on the winning end of so many of those matches, on the winning end again as she weathers the big hitting of the lefty Wang Shiyu, 6-3, 3-6, 6-4 victory for the American to advance. Wang Shiyu's a delight to watch. Lefty power just, it hits different, right? Because you don't see it as frequently. There was a fun clip from Ben Shelton in the press conference talking about how no one likes to hit with him unless they're playing Shapo or, playing one of his fellow lefties in the opening rounds of the tournament. Big lefty tennis, you just don't see a lot of, and it will disrupt your rhythms, as Wang Shiyu was able to do. It just felt like her ability to rip cleanly on the forehand cross and get Emma that far stretched, and then from there, again, be able to swing freely with that second forehand wherever she wanted to go. You look for Wang Shiyu, who in the course of this match, 17 of 26 when moving forward, indicative of how well she got Navarro stretched into the outer third, to the point where Navarro had to play the slice, had to play the bump lob, and again, Shiyu so comfortable moving forward from there. But credit to Navarro, who, I'll continue to say it, as talented as a ball striker as she was in college, she just wasn't this sort of mover, wasn't this sort of dynamic athlete. And if I missed on her projection for any reason, it's because of that. It's because she has turned into an elite mover, elite fluidity, and she's always had the skills available to her, the slice, the volley, the first serve she can kick wide. She's getting better at flattening it out as well. Second serve, yeah, she got attacked behind, but again, weathered the big hitting of Wang Shiyu, who certainly will still be streaky even within her ability to dictate. And if you can get Wang Shiyu stretched, she is not the most dynamic in the outer thirds. Navarro did enough of that behind first serves, played enough defense to elicit errors. Again, survive and advance for Emma Navarro. She does precisely that as she is through to the third round. Of course, up next for Navarro. Finally, an opponent who maybe she'll have some time on her hands. Although, against Ons Jabeur, again, she faced the physicality of Stearns in round 1, the heavy pace of Shiyu in round 2. Now she gets the slice and dice of Ons Jabeur in round 3. That's a brutal draw for Navarro to kick off the tournament. But again, Navarro, one of 3 seeded Americans through in 5 sets. And by the way, as we approach the third round of this Australian Open, all the American seeds, Navarro, Collins, Keys, Pegula, Goff, all 5 of the American seeds are through to round 3. They have done their job, and certainly there's still a lot of important tennis ahead to grade how the American women performed at the year's opening major, but that was one of the headline topics, is knowing, okay, Pegula made a major final last season. Goff won the tour finals. We want to see the American women competing in the final. If you're an American tennis fan, I say we, because I guess I haven't shunned the cloak yet, but you want to see these American women competing in the second week. They should all have opportunities to go up against the best in the world and on their best day beat the best in the world. They're all going to have an opportunity to do exactly that. Collins and Keys going to have that opportunity to do that against one another. A lot of fun tennis ahead if you are a fan of American women's tennis, particularly as, again, all 3 of the seeds today, Navarro, Collins, Keys, they all managed to advance into round number 3 with 3-set victories. Your other matches of the day on the men's side here quickly, and then we'll move on. How about Holger Rune? I mentioned this before, the test that Holger Rune's draw presents him. Even in getting through this Matteo Berrettini match, I guess he gets a bit of a reprieve as he was lined up to face Hubie Hurkacz. Instead, he's going to get Miomir Kecmanovic, who pulled off the upset victory. But Back-to-back top 50 wins for Holger Rune to kick off the tournament. For a seed to face 2 top 50 players before you get to the round of 32, again, it's about as tough of a draw as you can hope to, as you will see. This time for Rune, 7-6, 2-6, 6-3, 7-6. He advances over Matteo Berrettini. Again, that's on top of the win he earned over Zhengji Zhen in round number 1. You look for Holger Rune. Last season, he earned back-to-back top 50 victories at Indian Wells on his way to the quarterfinals. After that Indian Wells event, he didn't earn back-to-back top 50 victories at a single event until Cincinnati in August of last season. You look after that, won back-to-back top 50 matches in Shanghai, did it in Paris as well. But again, only 4 times last season, only 4 different events did Holger Rune earn back-to-back top 50 victories to do so at the year's first major. Just the sort of launching pad Rune is looking for as he looks to get things back on the elite track he appeared to be on back in 2023. And the most definitive thing Holger Rune did throughout the course of this match is just how definitive he was with his backhand cross. Again, you look for Rune on his way to the 7-6, 2-6, 6-3, 7-6 victory. He just has the strength in the backhand cross that even when Berrettini is cheating over and Berrettini is hitting inside-out forehands and Berrettini is trying to bait you into leaving something center or challenging his on-the-run forehand which he hits with such authority either cross-court or behind you, Rune didn't have to worry about that because Rune's backhand holds up even under the pace of the inside-out Berrettini forehand. The depth he can drive it with cross, the depth he can drive it with down the center, the ability to hold his ground on the return of serve off that wing, and then again, the authority with which he now finds behind his forehand as well. Look, Berrettini, I believe, earned more breaks in this match. Yeah, 4 of 10 to Rune's 3 of 10. Rune cut down the errors, just 34 to Berrettini's 51. Again, it felt like in those first and fourth set breakers, Berrettini was particularly limited by his backhand. Obviously, Rune very wisely on the match point, attacking into the backhand corner. Berrettini nets the backhand pass. It was just sound play. Exactly like that for a Holger Rune who goes 23 of 32 at the net. Yes, primarily through the backhand wing, but again, did enough to keep Berrettini honest with inside-in forehand approaches and backhands line that Berrettini couldn't just sit on that backhand pass and find rhythm. It just was back to what you'd expect from Holger Rune, for him to have answers to even the immense power of a Matteo Berrettini. This is an impressive victory, and just given the stage, more significant than what you saw from him at Paris to end last season, what you saw from him in Cincinnati to end last season. These are the sorts of top 50 wins that get you back into the top 10, that get you back into that tour finals conversation. You got to win early at the majors. This is where you can pick up the most points for Holger Rune. Yes, dealt a tough draw through his first 2 tests. Miomir Kecmanovic has played well this season with renewed pace as well, but more ideal of a third-round opponent than he's had in his first 2 contests. And look, after that, we all just want to see the date between he and Sinner in round 4. It's what we deserve as tennis fans to start the season. And certainly, if Holger Rune is going to get back to being considered in the upper echelon, he should want that opportunity to prove it to himself. Hey, I still got what it takes to take on the best of the world. And again, before you can take on the best in the world, as the wise Arthur Ozga, my former club tennis teammate, who you would see on that top photo there on the bookshelf, as he once said, you can't win a tournament in round number 1. You can certainly lose it. That is not what Holger Rune has done. He has gone out and won these matches, and you can see how much it means to him in the fire he releases at the end following these victories. Again, impressive in a 4-set win. Holger Rune able to advance, as was Lorenzo Musetti. Musetti ultimately 7-6, 7-6, 6-2 over Denis Shapovalov. Not going to spend nearly as much time talking about this one. I'll simply say Musetti was down an early break. I think it was 3-1 in the opening set. Wasn't broken the rest of the way on his way to a 6-6-2 victory. And look, Shapovalov cannot continue to be this limited. It doesn't make sense that a guy who, again, has flirted with top 8 in the world and has made a slam semifinal and had this overwhelming firepower and athleticism early in his career, now that he's in his mid-20s, that's just completely evaporated. And, again, it's so the backhand, now it just feels like there's so much inconsistency on that wing in a way that wasn't quite the case. The forehand is, I don't get it. I don't get the Shapovalov struggles. Here's what I will say. Musetti baited him into everything he wanted him to do, into premature approach shots and into, I guess Musetti's just a hell of an athlete. Lorenzo Musetti's just really good. You look for Lorenzo Musetti, 46-28 now over his last 52 weeks. You look for Musetti since the start of the since the start of Monte Carlo, though. Musetti during that stretch of time, he was 4-7 over his last 52 weeks. Doing some quick math here. This is the beauty of being live. Yeah, 4-7. So since the start of Monte Carlo, Lorenzo Musetti, 42-21. Why do I bring that up? What is 42-21? That's the 2/3 rule, folks. He has won 2/3 of his matches now for 9 months consecutively. That's why he continues to ascend the rankings, and Musetti currently sitting at that career high of 15 in the live rankings. A credit to, he just has options now for everything. The athleticism translates across surfaces. There's more pace behind the first serve and the first forehand. There's more depth in his typical ground stroke. He isn't always allowing himself to be baited into the exceptional improvisational tennis that I don't know if there's anyone more consistent on the run in these first 2 rounds than Lorenzo Musetti, who just provides highlight after highlight. He played really sound tennis. 6-6-2. Again, he got broken early, wasn't broken the rest of the way. He knocks off Denis Shapovalov. It's coming out of month number 1. FAA picked up a title, but we still got questions about 2 of our make-or-break all-stars, the Canadians, him, Shapovalov. Can they get back to where the hype train was, right, to start that 2020, to start the 2020s, period. Certainly 2 players to continue to watch as we move forward. But again, matches of the day, a credit to Lerner Tien, Emma Raducanu, a trio of American women, Holger Rune and Lorenzo Musetti. If I was going to go back and watch any 7 matches on the day, those would be the 7 I pick. And I certainly would ask, I wouldn't ask, do what you got to do. But I would recommend, that's the word, that if you're going to go back to the Australian Open YouTube channel, watch the highlights, definitely start with those 7 matches. I think they tell a very good story on the day. But obviously there were upsets. There were matches that went the distance that I have yet to mention. On the women's side, only 1 upset on the day. And had I told you in 2023 that Veronika Kudermetova knocked off Katie Boulter 7-6, 2-6, 6-2, don't think anyone would have been surprised by that result. In 2025, it's certainly more surprising, particularly given how well Boulter played in United Cup. Yeah, she got pushed in 3 sets in round number 1, but with how she was dictating in set number 2 up 6-2, that she had overcome a 5-2 deficit in set number 1 to force a first set breaker. Felt like Boulter was finding her footing, and then Kudermetova just played an exceptional deciding set, and again, was finding forehand's line that was really pressuring that Boulter backhand, forcing her to leave it short. It felt like she also did a good job of serving into the body of Katie Boulter and jamming that big forehand backswing, not allowing Boulter to catch her backhand out in front, which she does so successfully. It's the best ball I've seen Veronika Kudermetova play at a major in 18 months. And certainly for Kudermetova, who was in jeopardy of falling outside the top 80, it's a massive start for her season to get to the 3rd round of this event. And you look for Kudermetova now in the live rankings. She is back up, is Veronika Kudermetova, all the way to number 58. Here's something for you. Veronika Kudermetova, 58 in the live rankings, 57 in the live rankings. You probably already guessed it. Polina Kudermetova, her 6 years younger sister. Motivation. If you listened to this podcast last week, I falsely predicted her to win the Hobart title. Instead, she gives us an Australian Open 3rd round appearance. Impressive stuff for Veronika Kudermetova. She knocks off Katie Boulter, the 9th seed eliminated from this event. But I will say, it has been a relatively calm first 2 rounds of singles action on the women's side. We lost Chin Wen. We lost Muhova. We've only lost the 2 of our 10 top contenders thus far, and certainly again in losing Ostapenko, Azarenka, Boulter, Samsonova, Alexandrova, Noskova, Sakari, all solid players. But again, the pre-tournament top 10 I would have put together, and I think I did put together in our preview podcast. Only Chin Wen from Tier 1, and she was 5th in that Tier 1. Muhova, who was my 8th pick, I believe, behind Pegula and Keys coming into this event. Losing 5 and 8, keeping the top 4, keeping a lot of the rest of those top 10 contenders as well. So many, 14 of the top 16 seeds, again, and 23 of the 32 overall. I should have looked this up and figured out when's the last time we had that many seeds remaining. it's a deep field on the women's side. No matter what permutations we get, it feels like could be a lot of fun over the course of these next 5 rounds of play. So, again, both are eliminated. 9th seed eliminated overall. Your only upset on the women's side on day number 5. On the men's side, we had 3 upsets on the day. Obviously, Lerner Tien providing the loudest of the bunch, but how about Fabien Marchand? 6-1 in the 5th. He knocks off 17th-seeded Francis Tiafoe. He comes back from 2-1 down. And then, how about Miomir Kecmanovic? 4-4-2. He knocked out Hubie Hurkacz. I said, watching him last week, I believe, in Auckland, it just looks different. Like, there's just more chutzpah behind the first forehand. The serve is firing with a pace, and how he's hitting his slice tee on that ad side with such vicious cut. Like, I just don't remember him having this gear of power to him, and certainly you need that sort of gear of power. He's always been good in the corners. He's always been able to find depth. He's always been sound on the backhand return. But Kecmanovic 4-4-2 over Hubie Hurkacz. I know Hubie has traditionally struggled in majors, period. 4-4-2 was not on my bingo card. I could have seen Hubie losing this match in 5 sets, but again, after being pushed to 5 by Dusan Lajovic in round number 1, Kecmanovic 4-4-2. It's impressive stuff for him moving forward. Obviously sets up the date with Holger Rune. Disappointing for Hurkacz, certainly. Again, 3 seeds knocked out on the day. I kind of blitzed through the Marizan-Tiafoe match. Tiafoe wasn't at his best. There were moments of brilliance. The forehand continental grip pass cross court he hit in set number 3 against Tiafoe. Absolutely brilliant, but again, I don't think he was playing his best coming into this tournament. He wasn't on my short list of contenders. And certainly we've lost, in losing Daniil Medvedev, we lose a tier 2, but still top 5 contender for the crown. We've had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 seeds eliminated on the men's side. Yeah, the men's been the far messier of the 2 draws. Medvedev, Ruud, Rublev, Tsitsipas, all knocked out by teenagers. You know, Tiafoe knocked out in 5, but he got pushed to 5 in round 1 as well. Hurkacz out in straights. Korda out in 5 to Vukic. Baez out in 5. Popperin out in round 1. Thompson lost in straights to Nuno Borges. Felix knocked off in 5 after being up 2 sets to love. Pesci Pericard knocked off in 5 in a fantastic match with Monfils. Men's draw's got a little messy, hasn't it? In the best way. It's not as though the talent that has knocked off some of these seeds, like you're excited about a Lerner Tien story. You're excited about all the teenagers who've had success against top 10 opponents thus far. Yes, there have been upsets. It hasn't compromised the excitement nor the level of play we have seen thus far. And again, I would just keep that in mind as we move forward. Upsets can be embraced. It's a different era than the Big 3 era. That said, the Big 3 of Sinner, Alcaraz, and Djokovic certainly all still alive and looking good thus far. That said, though, again, fun set of upsets as we've seen 15 seeds eliminated so far on the men's side as we head into round number 3. We also bring our total to 32 matches that have gone the distance so far on the women's side. 5 more on the day. You had Navarro, Collins, Keys, of course. You had the 3-set victory over Katie Bolter for Veronika Kudermetova. And then Eva Lise, 3-set win over Varvara Gracheva. You know, again, seeds have been. I'm going to keep this stat moving forward. Seeds record in 3-set victories, 3-set matches, throughout the course of a tournament. Seeds have done very well when pushed the distance thus far on the women's side, and I think have avoided a healthy amount of upsets on the men's side. Medvedev, Tiafoe, both pushed 5. How about Lorenzo Sonego ending the run of João Fonseca? We haven't seen Fonseca in a 5-set match. It was fascinating to see how his fitness held up as he gets knocked out 6-7, 6-3, 6-1, 3-6, 6-3 by the veteran Italian. I don't think anyone's coming out of this loss and selling any of their Fonseca stock. If they are, I will happily purchase it from you. He beat Rublev in the round 1 matchup with all the spotlight upon him. And look, it's how you follow up those moments that define your trajectory on the ATP Tour moving forward. But an 18-year-old loses a 5-set match is not a headline. And again, Fonseca still gets an A grade. Still an A grade for his start to 2025 so far in his month of January. And then, shout out to the veteran, Marcos Giron. In fact, I want to look this up. How many times in his career has the veteran Giron, who has just quietly been hovering in the top 60 now for 2.5 years, but Giron, who with this victory now back up to 42 in the live rankings, 5 off his career high. How many times in his career has Marcos Giron reached round 3 at a major event, according to our friends at Tennis Abstract? For his career, Marcos Giron at the majors into round 3 for just the 3rd time First time not at the French Open. There's a statistic you didn't expect to learn here today. Again, Marcos Giron threw in 5 over Thomas Martin Etcheverry. 4 5-set matches on the day. 25 total 5-set matches overall through the first 2 rounds of men's singles play, with plenty of fun matchups ahead, of course. Looking through the rest of the day's results, plenty of seeds looked comfortable. Do I really need to tell you what an Iga Swiatek 6-love, 6-2 victory looks like? And I saw the stat from our friends at Opta Ace. I apologize if I'm going to butcher it, but Swiatek, it's like the group is her. I think it's like Navratilova and Everett are the list of players with the most Oh, here it is, courtesy of Opta Ace. Iga Swiatek has claimed 11.9% of total women's singles sets she's played by a score of 6-love at the majors. Only Margaret Court and Chris Everett have a higher rate of bagels, higher than 11.9% in a minimum of 100 sets played. So think about that. Just do the math. It means out of every 100 sets she plays, 12 of them she wins 6-0. I mean, let's say she plays an average of 20 Grand Slam matches a year. You want to take 10% of that, she's winning 2 6-love sets a year at the majors. It's silly. And the other set was 6-2. Silly. Swiatek's locked in. I think the best news if you're a Swiatek fan is that any health concerns you had, it goes away after a performance like this. Rybakina 0-3 over Jovic. Jovic just wasn't ready for the pace, the same way Emerson Jones wasn't ready for that degree of pace. It's been the ideal first 2 rounds. Rybakina has cruised. Paulini's looked really good in a prove-it year for her. 2 straight set victories to start the tournament. Not much more you could ask for. Haddad Maia, a rare straight set victory. How about Kasatkina? A quiet 2-love win. Again, Kasatkina, she's going to have a statue in the Hall of Good. She's been a top 20 player now for going on 3, 4, 5 years consecutively through to another 3rd round. That's what the best players in the world do. Poots is playing the best tennis of her career. 2-1 over Zheng Shui. Svitolina quietly maneuvers to the 3rd round. 1-4 win over Dalahide. How about Diana Yastremska? Look, when she's locked in, she made the semifinals of this event last year. She has elite twitchiness, elite firepower. You just never know which Yastremska is going to show up. Yastremska 0-1 over Dunka Kavinic. Again, Raducanu. Ons Jabeur, who she has played her way. Like, she just looks more comfortable in match play than she did in her first week back. 5-3 over the always tricky Camilo Osorio. That's another highlight reel match I would throw on the list as well. Jacqueline Christian, your final winner of the day, as she earns a 5-5 victory to advance to round number 3. It's got to be one of the first round 3s at a major in her career. And with the win, Jacqueline Christian back up to 61 in the live rankings, 4 off her career high, is the 26-year-old Romanian. That's everything on the women's side. On the men's side, look, Jannik Sinner dropped the opening set. One of our friends, we've got the chance to hang out with Tristan Shkulkanta a bunch when I've been on the road at the ATP Challenger level. You're not going to find a better guy. He played aggressive, moved forward, pressured Sinner, got into the court, rushed him, redirected line, took the swings you need to take. Couldn't sustain it over the course of best-of-5 format, and that's just a testament to the power Sinner plays with. You knew the moment he got the early break in set number 3, you could pack the bag, start the plane. He had found his rhythm. That match was going his way, and look, again, not a lot of people take sets off of Jannik Sinner at the majors, particularly at hard court majors of late. Shkulkanta's level is real. It's a healthy paycheck for him to kick off the season as well, and just will allow the young Aussie some breathing room as he looks to build his ranking moving forward in 2025. But yes, he dropped the opening set. It's how he recovered from there. You're feeling quite encouraged if you're in the Sinner camp, as you are with the Fritz camp. 2-1-0, like after the blitzing of Brooksby as well. Now Medvedev's out of the Fritz quarter. He's got to be 4th on your list, right? You'd go Alcaraz, Sinner, Djokovic, Alcaraz, probably Zverev 4th, or Fritz 4th, given his head-to-head advantage over Zverev of late. Now he's on the Sinner side of the draw, and that's the issue. But again, Taylor Fritz is going to make another Grand Slam semifinal. I don't want to say you're certain about that fact as you look at the draw right now for Taylor Fritz. The number 4 seed still has in his section seeds in Ben Shelton, Lorenzo Musetti, but those are the only 2 seeds left in his section. Shelton and Musetti also face one another in round number 3. The section has Taylor Fritz is, him versus Ben in a 4th round, or Musetti, that's blockbuster. Winner of that's a heavy favorite in a section. That's Fritz Monfils. Tough match, by the way, for Fritz. Fritz Monfils, Shelton Musetti, Sonego Marajan, Mute Tien. it's breaking up well for Taylor Fritz, who coming off of a U.S. Open final, coming off of a Tour Finals final, the confidence is there. The runway is there for him to get another shot at Jannik Sinner. And again, Taylor Fritz's belief has never wavered. It's never waned. Is the skill set there? Yes. Is he there physically? We'll get another shot to see how he fares and to get to play Sinner potentially in another major after losing to him in your first final. It's got to be the matchup he wants more than anything. It has broken open very well for Taylor Fritz, and he looks in form. 2-1 in love. He advances in straight sets. Demon looks awesome. 2-4-3. He knocks out Boyer, and right now the Tennis Abstract forecast severely underrating Demon's chances. He is playing that well to start the year. Runa, Musetti, again, the wins earlier today. Khachanov, 4-set victory over Diallo. That was impressive. He just, another casual third round for Karen Khachanov. Death taxes, him holding seed. Shelton through in 4. He's looked good in his opening 2 matches. And again, that's a 5th straight, 6th straight, third round appearance at a major or further for Ben Shelton. Mr. Consistent in holding seed. That's the first step in holding your elite ranking. Cerundolo advancing. How often do we see him hold seed? Mickelson, the great follow-up act. Straight set win for him over young Aussie James McCabe. Ideal draw, but he earned it in knocking off Tsitsipas in round number 1. Monfils through in straights. That's what, 7 straight? I think 6 straight victories for him dating back to the title run he went on last week. And then Corentin Moutet, 4-set victory over our guy Mitchell Kruger. Again, a fun day of men's results across the board. That means round 2 now officially in the books. And just to recap some of the groups we followed, of course, most closely here over the course of these first 5 days of play. You look for the American women. They're now 13-14. Overall through day 5. They've got 5 women through to the second week of this advance. I believe they had the same number last season. It was either 4 or 5 on the count. And again, the 5 women are the 5 seeds. It's Goff, Pegula, Navarro, Collins, Keys. The 5 you'd expect. Yes, they were each pushed respectively, but they each did their jobs. You're disappointed about the Anisimova loss, certainly, but not going to blame Jovic. Dalahide versus Svitolina, yeah, you would have liked that match scoreline to have been a little bit tighter. Still, Svitolina would have been the favorite in that either way. Anisimova playing well enough to have won that match is what might knock this grade down to a B as opposed to a B+. But the seeds have an opportunity to make a move into week number 2, and some of the seeds, in particular Goff, Pegula, Keys, they look like they're playing well enough to be considered serious contenders for the final, if not certainly the title in the case of Coco Gauff. And yeah, again, for the American women, 13-14 overall through day 5. I grade kindly. We'll go B+ overall in the end. For the men, I mean, with Lerner's win, it's an unequivocal A. And you have 6 men through to the round of 32 this year in Australia. That's one up from what we saw last season. Disappointing, obviously, you lose Tiafoe. You lose Korda in round number 2. But Fritz, Paul, Shelton, they all hold seed. They're through. Marcos Giron, again, third round. And after being a top 50 player last year, to consolidate his position with that third round here in Australia. Big win for him. Tien and Mickelson have both knocked out top 11 seeds. Mickelson knocked out Tsitsipas, followed it up with a straight set win. Tien, again, the 5-set victory over Medvedev. First third round of a major. Top 100 debut. How can you give anything but an A? They're 17-8 overall. There are 6 men still alive as we approach this third round, and they aren't all seeds. I think it has to be an A. Maybe you want to say A- because of the Korda and Tiafoe losses, fine. It's certainly in the A range for the men, whether it's Fritz looking the way he has all the way through to, again, Tien, Mickelson picking up signature victories. I'm going to give an A grade for the American men through the first 2 rounds of play. For the players with college ties, I mean, the women are 6 and 7 overall, but the 3 seeds, Schneider, Navarro, Collins, they're all still alive. They're all still doing their job. They're all playing the part, and I believe it's the 6th straight major, all the way dating back to the 2023 U.S. Open, 6th straight major where at least one player with college tennis ties has reached the women's singles third round. More and more indicative of the rising talent. College tennis is a pathway to the pros. It's not just Danielle Collins. It's not just Navarro. It's not just Schneider. It's not just Brady. It's Stearns. It's Lulu Soon, McCartney Kessler, Yulia Starodubtseva. It's all these names finding successes in different places. Again, the college women, I don't know, B+, A-. I guess their success will be determined on how those big 3 of Schneider, Collins, Navarro continue to fare moving forward. For the men, 17-12 overall, 7 total guys into round number 3. Obviously, Tien is part of this group as well, as is Giron, as is Shelton, but for Vukic to beat Korda. Borges beats Thompson in straight sets. It's the best I've ever seen him play through the first 2 sets. The Fernley magic keeps on spinning. Even Cerundolo gets a win. I think I'm going to go AA- for probably A for the college men as well. 17-2. When's the last time college men picked up 17 main draw wins across in a major tournament format? I would be pressed to know. Again, shout out to any of you who want to do that research and fire it to us in the chat moving forward. And again, last but not least, the 21 and under talent, the other categories we've been monitoring. Look, on the women's side, we're down to just the big 3. It's Goff, it's Schneider, it's Andreeva. For what it's worth, though, those big 3 all did reach round number 3 and continue to hold seed. Obviously, again, you had enough moments from players as well in Anka Tadani having a really fun first set in Polina Kudermetova in the month of January. Maya Joint, what she's done this month. Noskova, obviously the tough first-round draw in Towson. But big 3 are still alive. I think that's the big takeaway. And for the women and for the men, you got 6 21 and under players still alive. Not just Alcaraz, Runa, and Fils, but Mikkelsen still alive. Menchik still alive. Tien still alive. All of them earning top 12 victories here this tournament. Obviously, Fonseca, Basvaretti knocked out, but how encouraging their performances were here in January. Young, rising talent across the board. It's a fun time to be a tennis fan as we all prepare for this next generation to take hold. And certainly, again, we'll get to previewing the matches ahead and what this next generation has in store for us. Before we do, as of course we come off of... Oh, I apologize. That's what we call our first technical mishap. We're going to have to leave this, unfortunately, into the podcast unless Westhoff is listening closely enough with. Sadly, actually, it's episode number 1, so he might be listening closely enough. If you are, make a note, cut out this rant. I apologize for it. But back to the scene we go as, again, we get to our next topic here. We are through 2 rounds of play. How has the tennis abstract forecast changed? Who are the top 10 contenders for the title according to the metrics? Well, things stay relatively constant. Sabalenka, Swiatek, each of their chances tick up relatively similarly. Sabalenka, 28.6% chance of winning the title. Swiatek, 26.1%. After that, Goff, the last of the Tier 1 contenders according to the numbers. She's at 18.8%. That's slightly up. Rybakina's at 6.3%. That's down from where we were after round 1. That doesn't make sense, and in my opinion, sells her short. Pegula's 3.6%. Keys, Paulini, Badosa, all 2-point love. Mira Andreeva then 1.6. That's probably your tier 2. Not probably, that is your tier 2 as we move into round number 3. I know only 32 players remaining, but still, if anyone but one of those 9 players wins the title, I would be significantly shocked. 2 players tied at 1%. Again, Rybakina is being sold short by the forecast. I think Sabalenka, Swiatek, Goff, Rybakina are the clear tier 1. I think Pegula, Keys is honestly probably your clear-cut tier 2, even with Keys getting pushed, and then Paulini, Badosa, Mira Andreeva all fighting for that tier 3 status. And honestly, I'd be shocked if one of Paulini, Badosa, or Andreeva won this title. I would limit it to 6 names. You've lost Chinwen, but Sabalenka, Swiatek, Goff, Rybakina, Pegula, Keys. They've all played a brand of tennis either this month or this week in particular that makes me feel like, okay, though we're down to 7 names. Maybe you were down to less than that already. Maybe you don't even need those tier 2ers. You'd feel that confident at the top of the women's game, which wouldn't be unjustified. But that's how I'm feeling about the contenders relative to the tennis abstract forecast headed into round number 3. On the men's side, Sinner's chances have gone up. He was at like 65% after round 1. He's at 68.3 now as we head into round number 3. Djokovic 13.7, Alcaraz 6.9%. They've held a relatively constant. Zverev 5.1 is exactly what it was after round number 1. After that, a dip to Fritz 2.6. And yeah, if it's anyone else but one of those 5 guys, I would be shocked. And that is far from a hot take. We're down to 32 names. Those top 3 were the clear tier 1 contenders going into the tournament. Zverev was pretty clearly the 4, and if he wasn't, Fritz was pretty clearly the 4, and Zverev was your 5 in whatever order you had it. Those are the top 5. I don't think Fritz has only a 2.6% chance of beating Jannik Sinner. I think that number should be a little bit higher. I do think the fact that Djokovic, Alcaraz, Zverev, they all have to fight through one another. I'd probably go 20% Djokovic, 20% Alcaraz, 10% Zverev. Of the other 60%, I'd probably go 45% Sinner, 7% Fritz and split up the rest accordingly between a Draper, a Paul, a Runa, whoever you want to throw into the rest of the field. But I think it's pretty clear-cut tier 5. Sinner, Djokovic, Alcaraz, your tier 1ers. Fritz, Zverev, your tier 2ers. And to some extent, slightly exaggerated, but that is what the Tennis Abstract forecast refers to. So I do agree more thoroughly with it on the men's side, I would say. No, I thoroughly agree with it on both sides as we approach round number 3. And shout out to Jeff, who always does an exceptional job, obviously, with it. Last but not least, let's preview what promises to be a thrilling day 6 of action. And, more than anything, as you look at the schedule ahead, we've got 4 all-seeded encounters on the women's side. You've got 2 all-seeded encounters for the men. For the women, Badosa versus Kostyuk. You like athleticism? You like fluidity? You like plus power from the baseline? Badosa does it more frequently, certainly has a slightly higher weight of shot. Kostyuk's more dynamic. Kostyuk's more creative. Kostyuk's going to find answers. Both are really good from the baseline. Neither does anything in an elite enough fashion to thoroughly disrupt everything the other is trying to do. There's enough room for the playing styles in this for both of these players to play their best and for it to lead to a very fun game style. I mean, that's awesome. Goff versus Fernandez. If I pitched you that match after the 2021 U.S. Open, you would have thought that is the future. That is the 2020s. Goff's a significant favorite because she can just do more things with more weight of shot and has developed faster and more thoroughly, I think, than Fernandez over these last 3 seasons. But again, Leylah Fernandez is creative, and she's a primetime player. She'll bring her best for this match. Excited for that one. No secrets between the two either. Schneider versus Vekic is great. Donna Vekic has been gripping and ripping. Donna Vekic has played some good tennis even when being pushed so far, and yet this feels like a moment for Lady Di to pick up not a signature victory, but a, hey, there's a 12 next to my name for a reason. Stop questioning my place in the top 15 amongst this group. Stop alluding to me as a 250 vulture just because I like to play a lot. So does Emma Navarro. So do the best in the world. You know what's really fun? Being the best in the world at something. I want to play a lot. I wanted to develop. I'm still 21 years old. Schneider versus Vekic is a prove-it match for Di, who hits a dynamic enough ball to get the ball out of Vekic's strike zone and get her stretched into the outer third. Will she serve well enough, though, because Vekic is lining up everything to a T on the return right now. It's a great matchup between those two. Those are 3 of your 4 all-seeded encounters, and by the way, none of those 3 are my best match of the day on the women's side. You know I am a sucker for the power tennis of Sabalenka versus Tauson. And look, do I think Tauson's going to win? No. Do I think if she serves well, her power tennis can disrupt the rhythm of Aryna Sabalenka? I do. And keep in mind, Clara Tauson hasn't lost yet in 2025. Won a title in week number 1, through to the 3rd round, has already knocked out Anaskova, blitzed through Tatiana Maria, straight sets round number 2. She's playing the best tennis of her career to start this 2025 season. And she's someone who, again, you go back 2.5 years, she was, if not a tier 1, a tier 2 prospect you were projecting moving forward into this 2020s with the elite power tennis she's able to play. Again, an invitee to Serena Williams Power Tennis Country Club. Sabalenka's pace is going to be an issue for her, and Tauson is not the most fleet of foot. How she handles this matchup probably defines her ceiling moving in the immediate future moving forward. But more broadly, how will she handle facing elite pace? You have to be able to do that to be the best of the best in the world on the women's side. Those are 4 marquee matchups, no matter how you want to put it. And again, I've left off Osaka Bencic. Osaka wins this, Goff wins this. We get the blockbuster we all want in Osaka Goff round 4. Andreeva, coming off of a 7-6 third set win, going to get tested in Magdalena Frick, who's already knocked off a young sensation in Polina Kudermetova at this event. Pegula Danilovic is fun. Lefty power tennis. Danilovic is a prove-it match. How serious is her upside moving forward? 23-year-old into the top 50 for the first time. Then a couple of veterans doing battle. Pavlyuchenkova, Laura Siegemund. Proof that you still can be, leave it in, still can be a definitive action in your mid to late 30s. Again, Pavs versus Siegemund, your final match of the day. Sure, I'll give you predictions. Why not? Sabalenka, Badosa, Goff, Schneider, Osaka, Andreeva, Pegula, Pavlyuchenkova. I'm going straight chalk on the women's side on day number 6. For the men, I like the 8. I like the women's slate better, but I do like the 8. I think this is the litmus test for Novak Djokovic. He's been able to play with his food these first 2 rounds to some extent. Now you get the guy with the most wins since the U.S. Open on the ATP Tour in Tomas Machac. He's a good enough athlete. He's creative enough. He's explosive enough. He will put pressure on Novak Djokovic. Djokovic will not have the opportunity to play with his food. He will have to be disciplined, have to be undistracted by the Mahat short shorts. I think Djokovic prevails because I think he might just end up winning this tournament. It just feels, I'm starting to get those feelings. I don't know why, but you know it when you have it after this last 15-year stretch as a tennis fan. I think Djokovic gets through in a tight 4, but I think he looks best in this 4 than he has all tournament long. Zverev versus Fernley. Fernley's been unstoppable since turning pro at the start of June. Still has no points to defend until the start of June. He'll make a rise towards the top 50. That runway is there for him with the success he's had in reaching his first third round at a major at this event and all the points he accumulated last summer and fall. Zverev's been untested. If it's 4-all in a set, I'm excited to watch what happens because Fernley plays with enough ferocity, enough boldness to take advantage of the tentativeness that always seems to emerge for Zverev in this moment. It's his most significant test today, and still, it's been a pretty ideal week from a draw perspective for Sasha Zverev, who has to have been sitting back. I don't want to say smiling. I mean, he should feel cautious. All of his peers have fallen. He is one of the last original next-gen crew standing as we approach round number 3. I'm going to lean Zverev as well. The all-French battle, we got Pesci-Pericard earlier in the tournament. Humbert versus Fils. Humbert's just quietly maneuvered to round number 3. Fils tested more thoroughly. I'm going to take Arthur Fils, though, who's primetime performer. Give me him to advance in 4. Menchik versus Davidovich Fokina. Davi coming off of the 5-set win over Felix. Menchik 4-set win over Rude. I'll take the teenager Menchik, just too disciplined, too powerful for Davidovich Fokina to handle. Alcaraz Borges, as well as Nuno strikes the ball. It's when you get the explosiveness of Alcaraz that the lack of movement, elite movement for Borges is exposed. I'll take Alcaraz. Draper's been pushed to 5 sets, back-to-back matches. I'll still take him over Vukic. Lechechka and Bonzi are the 2 guys who've done the most winning over the last 6 months that you haven't talked enough about. I'll take Lechechka. I'll take Paul. Pretty chalk day across the board, and yet I still think it's going to... Just because I'm taking chalk results doesn't mean I don't think the tennis will be tight 4 sets or 3 sets on the women's side or just deciding moments, pivotal tie breaks. We're going to get drama more than anything. You look again at that women's schedule. We're getting high-quality tennis on day number 6, so certainly looking forward to being back here tomorrow to recap it all. And again, appreciate all of you who suffered with me as we attempted this test show here on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel. We are very much looking forward to being back on this platform, hopefully throughout the rest of this 2025 Australian Open, certainly till the start of our kickoff weekend coverage next weekend, as we want to provide another platform for all of you tennis fans to enjoy our content. But more importantly, we want to hear your comments. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear your questions. What are you thinking? What are your reflections through the first major of this 2025 season? Obviously, you guys can hear mine each and every day here on this show and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Of course, other content on the horizon. Again, kickoff weekend next weekend on our YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed so you can watch the ceremonial start to the new college tennis season. A lot of fun interviews available right now on the Cracked Interviews podcast feed as well. College content ahead, previewing the 25 season on the Great Shot podcast feed. A shout out, as always, to the tireless efforts of our super producer, Daniel Westoff, who has a fuck of an editing job to do day in, day out, making all of that content possible. A shout out to him, and a shout out to any of you who took the time to join me here on day one on YouTube. Again, I look forward to doing this more frequently. Look forward to continuing to hear all of your feedback as well as we continue to try and grow the content we do on our various platforms here at Cracked Racquets. With that said, for our fantastic super producer Daniel Westoff, and from all of us here at both Cracked Racquets and the Tennis Channel Podcast Network, I'm your host, Alex Gruskin. You know what we say. That's the break, and we'll talk to you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.